With where I am and what's going on behind me, there's no awards for guessing what's about to happen. Christmas has come early, about 8 months early, and I'm at Brink Bike Shop today to build a bike that's going to open so many doors for me, and it's the start of a story that's been a long time coming. And today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. They're the one-stop shop. They're like an all-encompassing do-it-all platform where you can go online, build your online presence, and run your very own business. I have been, and all of you guys know about this, I've been without a downhill bike for so many years. For probably 5 years it's been since I touched a downhill bike. I've built a lot of bikes that behave similarly, and I've loved, and I've hit huge jumps, huge bike parks. I've kind of pushed those bikes to the limit, but they've not been downhill bikes. And where I've missed out in the last 2-3 years heavily is on events like Darkfest and Hardline too. Red Bull Hardline is an event I've attended 2 years in a row. The first year on my Alpine Trail Carbon, I kind of dabbled on a few features, but actually with some of those features, with some of those huge drops, they just require a downhill bike. My brother and a few riders said to me, Matt, I know you brought your Enduro bike, but we're actually going to forbid you to ride. You're not allowed because the bike will probably break, you will break. It's like, some things just aren't possible in the mountain bike world. In this box is the Alpine Trail Carbon, the 29er Enduro bike that I really, really adore. I absolutely adore. I've got a brand new frame from those guys for 2022. But this for me is kind of like the final test, the final prototype stage, not for the frame, but for the entire bike, the parts, and getting to kind of understand what it is to build a rig again before the prototype actually arrives. And I'm so excited. I'm like, it's been years. It's been so long. And actually, before I get the frame out, because you guys have seen this frame before, that's the only thing that probably won't remain forever on this bike, because there's a real one coming. This is something I've not done in 5 years. And I've definitely never done it with Öhlins. And that's unbox a downhill fork. Look at that thing. That meaty, chunky downhill fork. I've not even held one really for years. I can't wait to have that up front. The support, the reliability, the confidence that comes from having a downhill fork changes everything. They're stiffer, they're huge travel. I love it. So I'm obviously going to have to run a slightly shorter axle to crown than I would on the full rig, because this bike will have its limitations of what it can take head angle wise. As soon as you make your suspension longer, you slacken the head angle, and that can fall outside the parameters that bikes are designed for. So I'm going to reduce the travel of this slightly in today's video, but I can't wait to see it on the bike. I mean, Öhlins make amazing forks. They're as factory as they come, they're race parts. The downhill fork is where it actually looks like that performance product. And then in a separate box here, you've got the crowns for it. The triple clamp crowns. Fine piece of Swedish engineering right there. It's actually pronounced Öhlins, I think, but said no one ever. It's true, isn't it? It's not like Valentino Rossi's out on the GP going, my Öhlins feel great. That's cool, isn't it? Yeah. I might have to ring my brother. I've semi-forgotten how all this stuff goes together. In fact, you'll see in this video I'm not a mechanic by any stretch, and Brink's shut. By the way, you've got to see how good the shop looks. It's really, really a fine sight to behold, this shop. There's so much stock in right now. It's beautiful. Öhlins, they've got so much. Marins, it's an amazing shop. I'm lucky to be in here building a bike. So the other thing that's different, we're going to get cracking in a minute with this build. I've never used these wheels before. These are the Halo Gravitas wheels. I always, because I ride enduro bikes, because Marin only make enduro bikes, I ride the Vortex wheel, which is a super lightweight, nice, real wide rim that's perfect for enduro. But now I'm building a downhill bike, which I'm going to hit the start of the downhill bike, okay? This isn't my final product, but I was so excited. I had all the parts waiting. I just thought I'm going to put it on that frame, ride it, see how it looks. And then actually this is going to be part of the testing process. So when the proper one arrives, we can draw comparisons and do all of that, because I am involved with Marin's testing. But the Gravitas rim, they're a more heavy duty, more downhill proof wheel. Buzzing to have them on this bike. 29 front and rear. Let's get the rear one out. Do a sound check. Yeah, it does. Whistler Bike Park, here we come. You'll hear me from the lifts. I'm going to start the build, I think. All these parts have been laid out for so long. That's a cool thing to show you in a minute. That's very, very special. Anyway, let's put it in the stand, get this bike out, and start creating phase 1 of the 2022 rig series that Matt Jones is about to be on his own in, because everyone else has had downhill bikes for a long time. A lot's happened, we've done a few assemblies, but this hasn't really changed, has it? And it's really frustrating because I'm lacking a few key parts. And the more I look at this, the more I'm just so desperate to build this bike up and make it happen. Look at that assembly. It's the first Öhlins triple clamp downhill fork I've ever owned. They just scream of attacking rock gardens, huge jumps. So many boxes that's going to tick for me. But because this has a straight steerer tube and not a tapered one, I don't have the right headset cup to put it in the bike. And until the Brink guys get here, I can't do it. But like that, I'm so proud of. It's the first time I've ever used the Gusset S2 direct mount stem, which bolts directly onto that. I love how CNC'd and kind of ahead of the game all this stuff is. It just looks so factory, doesn't it? It's very different to what I'm used to, and a lot of people who ride downhill bikes week in, week out, this is their daily routine, but for me it's super special. Same goes for this. So the Gravitas rims look great. These wheels with the Conti de Kaiser tyres look great. Also, Conti have just released an entire new range of tyres. So that's one thing that's probably going to change on this build, is testing out their new tyres. But I've got chrome, kind of grey chrome Gravitas stickers to swap out for the etched ones, which matches the bike really well. So that's really, really good. And then you can't ignore these cranks. The titanium cranks were just built for this frame, or vice versa. They're perfect, aren't they? With the absolute black oval chainring, that's 32 teeth. I might change that because I've got a 10-speed, really, really downhill ratio cassette. That's so unusual for me. Usually with the big Enduro ones, the biggest ring can be like 50 teeth. But that looks cool, doesn't it? So I'm gonna have a nice small mech, and likewise, with it not being an Enduro build, I've gone with a fixed seat tube rather than a dropper. So no P&W dropper on this, but let me bring your attention away from the epic downhill fork and to the next piece of Öhlins tech, which is my rear shock. So the only bike you'll have ever seen me use an Öhlins coil shock on was my e-bike, that mustard ketchup design one. But on this, I never thought I'd do it, but Brink have actually got one in the shop, an Alpine Trail carbon with an Öhlins coil on it, and it looks incredible. I remember holding it and photographing it for like an Instagram post a while back, and it's so cool. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this bike. It will set it off beautifully, having a coil at the back and a heavy duty triple clamp fork at the front. I'm so excited, I'm so into it. So I'm a little way off the complete build, but actually with all these assemblies, it's gonna bolt together really, really fast. I've kind of made my own production line. For up front, I've got a 203mm rotor, which is huge, so we're gonna have ultimate stopping power up front. This S2 saddle has that marble effect in there, the same as the dirt jump saddle you've seen on my jump bike, and it's got my signature on it too. So this is the new Gusset range I've got coming soon, and on this, you can't lie, it's gonna look trick, isn't it? It's gonna be perfect. I've also got an absolute black oval bash guide, because I think being a downhill bike, I want a bash guard to protect the chainring from rock strikes and things like that. Shimano XT brakes, they're going to go on there and internally read. I'm going to wait for Joe to get here. He's like the mechanic here that helps me. When he arrives, he's going to finish the build. Then we're going to go through to Plush for a setup. Now this is the really important thing, because talking of setups, some people have set up their ultimate business idea, their products, all of those ideas, they've got it all together and they're nervous or apprehensive or unsure of how to pull the trigger and take it online. Those people can go to the link in my description below where they can start a free Squarespace trial. On there you can choose your domain name, you can build in calendars, appointments. You can link your social media channels to your website. Most people do that first. They've got a big following, and then you build your website and you can bolt it all together and check how that's all performing in unison. So there's a discount code too where you can save 10% off your very first purchase of Squarespace. But actually talking of setups, suspension and bikes and tracks have changed so much since I've last ridden a downhill bike. Jumps have got bigger, wheels have got bigger, bikes have changed, they've got lighter, like geometry has changed. So it's been so long since I've put a fork like this on a bike, whereas luckily Brink has Plush suspension, which is the leading suspension setup service. They're like proper suspension engineers in there. So when we put the coil and fork on shortly with Joe, we're going to wheel it through there and they're going to set this bike up beautifully for me and kind of get their head around the fact that it is an enduro frame right now, but we're trying to make it feel like a downhill bike at this stage. So I'll be back in a minute and Joe's going to finish the job. Look at this. On every level, it's the coolest bike ever. I've done a lot of bike builds on this channel over the years, but this is like a whole new category. It's so smart. The boys here at Brink have absolutely smashed it. Joe built this bike up. He rang me loads of times to say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We've gone with the single speed conversion kit, which looks so sick. I mean, it's a park bike, isn't it? This is the answer to my prayers. This is a bike that I'm not going to enter downhill races on, but one that I'm going to hopefully hit the biggest jumps in the world on. I really hope we're going to bring something like this to market. We'd love to work on a park bike that is essentially a downhill bike, but it's this, right? Look, 2 brakes, but no shifter, no dropper post, but a huge triple clamp fork, this gusset direct mount stem. Like looking down over this, first time I even sat on it, it's so unusual for me. It's beefy, it like inspires confidence. I love these gusset pedals, they're like stealthy and really sick. The tie cranks were a must. The only thing I'd change, loads of guys here, this bike's been sat here for a few days and a few customers have been in to see it, but this is the first time I've seen it. And Steve, who works here, rang me and said, mate, it's brilliant, but it needs a pivotal saddle. So we just arrived then and swapped that. Don't you think on a park bike that beats an Enduro railed saddle? I do. The brakes look lovely. Everything on this bike was like it was designed around this frame. The oval chainring, the colour of the brakes, and then the guys even rang me again. They said, Matt, you've got XT brakes. Do you want XTR rotors, which have got these cool fins on? They look smart, don't they? It's just so sick. I feel so lucky. Look how cool it looks. It's my favourite looking bike. So I'm riding this tomorrow. I'm going to Wales to hit some massive jumps at this jam at Bike Park Wales. So I'm going straight in the deep end to test it, which means we've got to go to Plush now and get the suspension set up for those jumps, because the fork right now it's really soft. It's super, super soft. So let's go through there. Listen to the drop test. It doesn't even make any noise, look.
Cool.
Because there's nothing on it. It's not got gears. How good's that? Woo! Let's make it ride. This is Adam at the Plush end of Brink. So Plush specialise in everything suspension, rear shocks, forks, dropper posts. They service them, they make them feel like new, but they also do setups. That's what Adam's going to do for me. This bike is not ready to go. It looks brilliant, but without a setup, it's out of the box. It's hopeless. It is true, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can spend a lot of money on a really, really nice bike, and then if you don't set it up, it's no better than buying a cheap piece of crap.
No, I agree. This falls well outside of my realm of expertise, so Adam's going to do all of this. But what I know and what everyone has the right to know is their kind of expectations from suspension. So for me, Adam, as you know, I'm not entering downhill races tomorrow. I just want to be able to hit massive jumps and have the support and the beefiness and like the ramp up to be able to take those big impacts.
I like beefiness. You can do beefiness. They
already chose me the right weight spring for me. That's like an easy thing if you know what you're talking about. Again, I didn't, but you guys just asked me for my weight and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a setup is really, what do you want out of the bike, how much do you weigh? They work out the leverage ratios and everything, but the fork, Adam, feels really soft. And you also said something about travel?
Yeah, so basically you've taken an Enduro bike and made it beefy, using your words. So you can't just bolt a really, really long fork on any bike. Obviously there are limitations to what the frame is designed to handle. So this particular bike is designed to handle, I think it's up to like 160, 170 mil travel fork. So we need to reduce that fork to have the same axle to crown. So distance from here to the axle down there as a 160, 170 mil fork. Once we've done that, then you're good to go.
Is that because the longer the axle to crown gets, the slacker the head angle gets, and then you put more pressure through the head tube?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, not only would you make it slacker, you'd raise the bottom bracket up, which would be kind of slightly undesirable, but also it's the leverage. Like you case a jump, which you're never famous for. You case a jump with a massive fork, the head tube's not going to be able to survive it.
Okay. So, and then could you make them firmer, please?
Yes. Yeah, we'll make that. That's not.
Someone might love that, but that would just dive in the ramp. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it looks sick though, doesn't it?
It does. Very clean lines.
Go on then.
It's going to be good.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Here we go. How sick does it look? Am I cool now?
You're cool there.
It feels amazing. What did you do?
So we've got actually a 180 mil fork. I've managed to keep the axle to crown height, so that important number that we wanted to not go over.
Yeah.
That number is within Marin specs, but still being 180 by dropping the forks through the crown a little bit. Added air pressures, ramp pressures, so you shouldn't be bottoming out, and then also played around with your rebound.
So you've made it ramp up more?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Better for the jumps.
I'll find out tomorrow. I mean, this is like the vehicle now to unlock all those jumps and events that I haven't been able to for so long. This is my Enduro downhill bike. And I'll see you at Wales in the next video when I actually ride this thing. Thank you so much, Adam.
No worries.
Plus you're experts. Like, even if you've owned a bike for 2 years, a setup would make a huge difference to your bike. It's not, you don't do it with you don't have to do it with brand new suspension. And I honestly, I've worked with Plush for the longest time. My brother too.
Serviced.
Yeah, Adam was Jono's mechanic for a long time.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, and if you've had a bike 2 years, you need it servicing too. See you back at the playground, legends. Ready? Oh, it's because it's the first time I've ever seen that. Like, it was never coming out.